So are you going to, you want to give us a bit of background to everybody, and then we can answer any questions, hopefully, that you've got for us?
Yes. Guests stand or not?
No, all the way up to sit.
Your Worship, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, this is a citizen's submission. I'll read the letter and then elaborate. This letter was prompted by a comment by a party of Christchurch visitors standing outside the Waimate Courthouse. Will we go in? If that dilapidation displays what Waimate thinks of its heritage, it would be a waste of time. It is a building, one of 3, rated by the Waimate District Council in its district plan. The courthouse building state at present is appalling. I wish to ask the Waimate District Council, 1, the extent of its proprietary obligations, and 2, what remedial action is envisaged. Now my comments. Is emphasised in the civic speeches made at the 1954 Centennial Banquet. The major toast concluded with the words, "To the great race of earlier years, they were full of courage, perseverance, and practical wisdom. Richly do they deserve gracious memory." But there's no graciousness in the current standard of the courthouse building, or, for that matter, little integrity in Waimate's brochure, which states our valued historic buildings. And so I reiterate the appalling standard of this particular council's asset, remembering that their other assets include Victoria Park, Nottingham Park, Seton Square, all in impeccable condition and applauded by visitors to them. But for some reason, the asset of the Waimate District Council, the Waimate Courthouse, has missed out. These assets I've mentioned earlier have all been subjected to annual plan consultation. For some reason, the courthouse is missed. And so, ladies and gentlemen, urgent action is required to repair the Waimate Courthouse, because its collection, Dr. Roger Duff said many years ago, it is one of the finest collections of its kind in the country. And so to maintain the citizens' obligations and the obligations of this council, I would ask you to turn your attention to remedying the awful condition of the building which houses Waimate's history.
Thanks, John. So probably just a little bit of background is Rick is our elected member on the Historic Society Committee, and that unfortunately, when it comes to the courthouse, this has been an ongoing issue for a number of years. It was unclear who the ownership of that building actually stood with. Originally it was DOC, and then there was an agreement made between the council and the Historic Society at the time that council would take ownership of the building, and then the Historic Society would then take ownership of council, which would enable them to get grants to maintain the building. My understanding is that the Historic Society at the last minute changed its mind and decided it didn't want to take ownership of the building. And I'm still not, and maybe Stuart can give us some clarity on and who. I don't know whether we're still 100% clear on where the ownership lies. But we have recognised it is in an appalling state. We went for a tour through there on one of our induction days. I took the councillors through there. I guess, and this is, I think, as part of the LTP that's coming up, we will be looking at asking the question around does Waimate value its heritage and the costs associated with maintaining not only the building site, but as I said, the likes of the theatre is another building, obviously, that falls into that, into part of our assets. So it will be a question that's coming up in the LTP around the funding that's needed to properly maintain and run these buildings. So it will very much be up to the community to get in behind and back it if they so wish to enable us to budget for repairs and things like that. We have spent a considerable amount of money to date on it. I think, Dan, when we did the roof repairs, it was around about 100,000.
Yep. Yeah, slightly more than that.
Slightly more than that, yeah. So we've spent in excess of $100,000 doing roof repairs to the building. And we are working through the process with Rick and the Historical Society to get it to a point where the Historical Society have come back to us and said they now wish to take over ownership of the building, but obviously it needs to be at a point before they'll do that. So we are working through that. Any comments you want to make, Stuart?
No. Well, the ownership issue's an interesting one. It wasn't fully transferred, nor was it gazetted to council. But that aside, we've still been maintaining the weather-tightness of the building where possible. So we've already spent about 100,000 on the roof. We've got to do some more work now quite urgently. We've now discovered that the rain heads are problematic to some ingress into the building. So there's mould coming through still, even though we've sort of done the substantial part of the roof. That body of work, I think, is going to proceed, Dan.
Yes.
So we're not going to wait on that. We're going to get that done and make sure that the building's weathertight. We'll be putting it into the LTP and asking the question of the ratepayers to the degree to which they want to invest in that building. But we hopefully will we know roughly what the total cost is over the next 3 to 5 years. It might surprise you, the amount. But the Historical Society has also said that they don't expect us to go to consultation for the full amount. If we can do the substantial structural integrity and the bigger stuff, they then might be able to take it over and then go for government grants to complete the rest. So that's all going to happen in the next year or two.
So hopefully that sort of gives you a little bit of background, John, and that is certainly, we're very aware of the condition of it, and we are making moves to make sure that it is weathertight, and we're working closely with the Historical Society to get the best outcome for that building and obviously all the assets that sit within it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've always looked, I think the citizens have always looked upon the display, maintenance and preservation of our history as a partnership with local government. I'll just mention that when we established the archives many years ago, that was at the initiative of the Historical Society. The district, the county and the borough archives were sprinkled around town, some of them in garages, others in the back of workshops. And we were able to, through the Canterbury Museum, to get a full set of archival material. The market cost at that stage was about 100,000, and the Historical Society contributed probably hundreds and hundreds of hours of installing it all. So in this partnership, Mr. Chairman, there has been substantial contribution by the members of the public.
Yeah, fully aware of that, John, and I know that we have a good working relationship with the Historical Society, and hopefully we can see some real effort in moving forward to bring that building back up to the state that it should be. We'll keep you up to date.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
No, thank you for
councillors.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, nice of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alright, good morning everybody and welcome to this council meeting for today, Tuesday the 24th of February. Just a reminder that we are live streaming. Now ask Councillor Harrison's going to open the meeting for us. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Your Worship. First, it was nice to see John.
Yes, very good.
He said a lot. I've actually just truffled through and got some quotes. That's what you do when you take the easy way out. The first is one which came about from a lively discussion in here, out of session, which John Begg, in particular, Councillor Begg, got highly involved in. And I saw this when I was looking at some other stuff, and it reminded me of him and of the conversation we had. Owners of dogs will have noticed that if you provide them with food and water and shelter and affection, they will think you are God. Whereas owners of cats are compelled to realise that if you provide them with water and food and shelter and affection, they draw the conclusion that they are gods. And now, Sandy started with Winston Churchill, who he was much enamoured of. I also turned to another guy, Marcus Aurelius, who says a few things that I quite like. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and you have the power to revoke at any moment. And when you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, and to love. Or as Lou Reed would say later in the 70s, any day above ground's a good day. Lastly, Marcus Aurelius again. Live a good life. If there are gods and they are just, they will not care how devout you have been, but will welcome you based on the virtues you have lived by. If there are gods but unjust, then you should not want to worship them. If there are no gods, then you're gone, but will have lived a noble life that will live on in the memories of your loved ones.
That's great. Thank you, Paul.
Thought you might have read it in Latin.
I think it did for 8 years. Didn't learn that much.
Yes, so
No, I haven't got a little bit now. That's obviously we've had John for the public forum. One thing I would like to acknowledge is you may have seen recently that Anne Munro passed away, and that I worked closely with Anne as the mayor and that sort of thing. She was a staunch advocate for the Mackenzie district and that sort of thing. So I would just like to take this time to acknowledge the passing of Anne and just ask if we could have a minute of silence and stand. Anne, thank you. for that. Apologies, I have an apology from Councillor Guildford. Everybody else is here. Moved Councillor Stevens, seconded Councillor Paul. Put the motion, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you for that. Conflicts of interest. Council might have any pecuniary interest in any item on the agenda. They must declare this interest and refrain from discussing or voting on the item and are advised to withdraw from the meeting table. Does anybody have any conflicts in relation to anything in the agenda today? No, thank you very much. Moving on to the implication of major or minor items on the agenda. No, none that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I'm just not sure about that item.
Yeah, those are
Dan's late item.
It's a late item. That's in public exclude, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Moving on to the minutes of the council meeting on the 27th of January 2026. I'll take it as read. Is there any alterations, corrections or discussion? If there's not, can I have somebody move the minutes? Move Councillor Bear, seconded Councillor Small. Motion, all in favour say aye. Against, carried. That. Moving on to the Mayor's report on page 16. Not too bad a sort of month. Seem to be going to Christchurch a hell of a lot recently, up and down, up and down. I don't think it's going to get much better.
Have you taken anything out of any of those meetings that you've gone from, anything that stands out?
So there's been a lot of sort of discussion around this future of local government with the reorganisation and the combined territorials board and things like that. So the Mayoral Forum did a submission very similar along the lines of our one that we put in. The general consensus is that the mayors don't want to be responsible for the day-to-day running of Environment Canterbury. We believe that the elected members that were put there should see out their term and continue with the day-to-day running, and that we should be responsible for the formulating the plan moving forward as to what the future of local government looks like. There's some really varying views around the table as to what that looks like, from unitary authorities to standalone councils to amalgamations so it's going to be a very interesting discussion as we move into, if we get into that position, which we will, it will come at that. So a lot of talk, a lot of differing views and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to keep going to the meetings and see how it plays out. I'll keep you informed and that sort of thing. I know I see Nigel now is doing a online briefing after each of the Mayoral Forums about what was discussed at the meeting. So that's available if you
Online briefings to his council?
everybody, to all councillors.
Okay.
And that I was unaware that was actually even happening, but I think Stuart, you.
I did. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I tuned in yesterday morning. It was just a very high level update for any councillor that wishes to listen.
The Zoom type?
Yes, the teams.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Teams call.
So from now on, I'll make sure that you
We'll make sure that everybody gets an invite.
Yes, that'd be good. I think, yeah.
the link.
I have that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I think I forgot about that.
That other than that, obviously went to the opening, did the opening of the 150 Caledonian Games here in Waimate. Amazing event, oldest, longest continuing running event of that type in the country, and a really good turnout this year. Obviously didn't clash with a whole heap of other stuff like it normally does, so they had a really good turnout, particularly in cyclists apparently. So it was really neat to catch up with old Watty and the team down there that organised that. Other than that, happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Just going back to the Christchurch Canterbury Mayoral from meetings. What costing is that coming back onto the council and just to make sure that the Parliament know that there's a government requirement, but the government's not putting any funding into it.
Yep, thanks for that, John. Well, obviously there's a cost to all of this because I have to also take a car up, which costs us. There's night's accommodation, which costs us, and then there's meals and everything else. So I don't know what I would say. You know, you're probably looking with, I have no idea, probably close to $1,000 for that if you took all the costs involved in that.
Which means that the government's not paying a single cent.
No, well, there was one of the questions. We did have a presentation from DIA earlier on, back in January, and we asked about the funding for this reform. And the message that we got loud and clear was that it was to come out of existing Environment Canterbury budgets, and that the government had no funding available for this.
For the procedure.
For doing what they have told us we have to do. And, you know, again, it's just another unfunded piece of work that's come down from the central government.
Which comes back onto
our ratepayers. Yep.
Thanks for that.
Yep. Thanks, John.
So just to clarify a point there, you said that ECAN are paying, that this to come out of ECAN budgets.
Yep.
But there's expenses for you going up there. Are we getting that back from
No.
ECAN?
No, it comes out of our budgets. Yep. Yep. And it was interesting because Environment Canterbury said to DIA, were they going to change the law? And they looked perplexed and that. And then Stephanie said, well, we went to a system with same as councils with LTPs for our budgeting and our funding, and they can't just magically appear several $1 million out of nowhere to fund this piece of work. So they would need a law change to be able to fund it, because the only way they can fund it, and the way they're talking about funding it is through debt funding, so borrowing the money to do it.
What a joke.
So interesting. I'll keep you in touch and let you with what goes on.
Thank you.
And the only other thing that's coming up was we have a Zone 5 and 6 meeting coming up. I think it's next month sometime, April, March. What are we now? February. We've already lost track of the months. So I'll put something out in Christchurch. So hopefully we'll be able to get myself and maybe a couple of councillors to go up to that. So I'm more than happy to move my report. Have a seconder? Yep. Seconder, Councillor Beard, thanks for that. All in favour say aye. Against, carried. Moving on to the councillors' reports. So here's an opportunity to highlight anything that you've been at or any issues you want to raise. If it's not, will somebody move the councillors' report? Move Councillor Stevens, second to Councillor Small. Put the motion, all in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Moving on to the Chief Executive's report, I'll hand over to Stuart.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll take the reports. Obviously, I haven't been to too many meetings. I've been bolted to my desk the last month or so. I do travel around the district quite a bit, but I don't list all of those meetings unless they're sort of a bit more of interest. So if there's any questions, I'll answer them.
Meeting with MGI, anything come out of that? Not really.
No, we hadn't met with face-to-face for probably 18 months, and we recently signed an agreement with them for water for the Lower Waiho water supply. So we just got together with the Chief Executive and the Chair.
So the water relates to the water from Bell's Pond?
Correct.
Oh, okay, yep.
Because that's in their command area.
Yep.
And we spoke about other matters, generally how they're going, how we're going, and raised issues between us top of mind, and had let's probably spent an hour and a half together.
Yeah. And I think one of the key things was actually thanking them. Yeah. Because you know they've been really good to work with, particularly around that new water tank that we've got, and they've been very accommodating. So it was a good opportunity to say thanks for all the hard work that they're doing with Dan and the team. No other questions for Stuart? No. Have somebody move Stuart's report. Move Councillor McAwee, second to Councillor Patterson. Put the motion, all in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you for that. Moving on to the council's action report on page 21. 3 items. Obviously the FENS, I believe we have written to them again, or
We emailed them. Followed up.
with no reply.
No, we have had
Oh.
a reply, and we have escalated it beyond our normal contact officer to a more senior officer who's going to review it and get back to us soon. So we'll just see how it goes.
Cool. Yeah. And then the other 2 items was just the St Andrews closed landfill that we're aware of, and the government funding agency one. Any questions in relation to those outstanding action items? If not, have somebody move the recommendation that the report's received. Move Councillor Small, second Councillor Hall. Put the motion, all in favour say aye. Against, carried. Moving on to the Human Resources Report on page 23. Good morning, Grace.
Morning all.
Right.
Morning. I take it, agree with me that my report is read, and if anyone has any questions.
Just applicants, pretty good, you know,
Good full.
yeah.
So yeah, we've even just we've advertised for the graduate planner and the assistant engineer. So assistant engineer, we've had 41 applicants so far,
That's good.
and the other one 31. Whether they're, you know, whether they're good applicants, we're still to review.
So what were those 2 positions for?
Assistant engineer and the graduate planner.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then other ones, yeah, we're sitting at slightly lower, but yeah, we've had a good pull. I think it's a hard time to find specialised people with specialised roles, so.
How's the after hours dog control one going?
We're going through interviewing,
So we get a few applicants?
we're going to get a couple, but
Oh, yeah.
hopefully we've got someone in that pool this time.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so
It'd be nice to get that filled.
yes, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Grace at all?
9 vacancies. Yeah, that pretty much is reflected on what you're trying to fill at the moment.
Yeah, and some of them are on hold that we haven't filled, haven't gone out to advertise for, so. You'll see there's probably quite a few up on the website. If you
Yeah, I see that.
And these are all replacement positions.
Yeah, apart from the graduate planning.
Just a question, we've got 9 positions to fill.
Mhm.
We've got a total of 90 staff at the moment, is that right? So that'll put us up to 99 staff. Is that correct
We'll
if we
drop
had
back down once the pool
full
closes.
staff go?
Yeah.
So we are still heading up with staff, and I know we've spoken about this, and I just think that it probably just needs to maybe just be said for people who may be watching online.
Yeah.
Our staff numbers are going up. It's not what we all want to happen, obviously, because of course it's more money coming out there. But why are our numbers going up? Can we, is you just
It's not, if you look back at the 18th of the 3rd, 2025, our total headcount then was 89. And then we probably had vacancies, a lot of vacancies at that time as well.
So do you think that we're static, but we don't think that we're actually increasing?
We do have a couple of additional roles in there.
Yeah.
You know, with all the changes coming in and stuff. But I will say that I want to say that we've increased our headcount
A
a
huge
lot.
amount.
No.
And I guess the other thing too is that, you know, if you take like the work that's been done in the 3 waters, it's a massive workload that's gone into that, and I think we've got a new position in there.
Well, you did approve a, where do we have the cadets? We had the cadets, one for the operational side of the water supply, which we are reviewing given the pressure coming out of the pressure on rates in the AP and LTP, whether we can postpone that for 12 months, which Dan has sort of agreed to do at this point. But if you go back 10 years, year on year, it looks like we have increased on average about 1 employee per year, but that is only in response to our bureaucratic need to answer increasing levels of regulation.
Yeah.
Because what's happening with the team is they're just absorbing more and more and more.
So if it'd be fair to say if we're not having a full contingency of staff to do this work, are we looking at outsourcing some of that stuff?
One of the options.
We are still outsourcing on top of this though.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, the amount of work that was required to get our water service delivery plan over the line with a number of consultants, like Becca doing the asset maturity assessment test was required, and then taking our LTP information and realigning it to meet the water service delivery DIA requirements for the water service delivery plan, and then draft the water service delivery plan. You know, that was about $100,000 spend.
Yeah,
on
that's in
consultants.
that's in further
It's in
on.
the further on,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's just, but
Yeah.
it's still a measure of what we can't absorb. It. That's the spillover.
The thing I get frustrated about, Lisa, is that prior to all this reform, our team were working full-time, just running what we do and that. And so Dan and his team, they had a full complement of staff who were flat out just doing the day-to-day, everyday business. And then you get the likes of this new reform and regulation that comes in, and it's just a mountain of work and resources that have to go into that. So what do you do? You either outsource it to consultants at ridiculous prices, or you bring someone on to help out to get that workload. And I think it's a wise move to bring someone on. It builds a bit of capacity within council as well. We've sat around this table for I don't know how long and talked about excessive leave. You know, why aren't staff taking their leave? And you know, it's getting excessive. And then the next minute, you know, we agree to put additional staff on, and then we get slated by the ratepayers for, you know, the staff's, you know, ballooning out. And I think it's just a lack of understanding, a lack of the way we're telling the story about what we're being required to do now. And it's just, you know, if you take this reform of local government that's coming up, you know, that's a massive piece of work that's going to have to be done by, some of it's going to have to be done by us, most of it's going to have to be done by the CTV. And the likes of the classic one is you've got a government that's brought a new RMA where we have to now have a regional spatial plan, and we spoke about this the other day. To do a regional spatial plan for our district alone is going to be in excess of $1 million, and the time involved in that. And as we'll see in the reports we get on, it's going to complement the staff on the way the district's going at the moment. When you look at the limbs and the PIMs and everything else, we're flying along. They've got more numbers than ever, but how do you get 1 3/4 planners to carry that workload? And that's why we agreed that we need a cadet in that planning to do that day-to-day stuff. So it's like a cat chasing its tail.
Oh, I think the cadet's a great idea.
And it is frustrating that. But I just think, look back and go, well, 7 or 8 years ago, we were flat out just running our district. And in the last 6 or 7 years, we've had reform on reform on reform, and requests and the information and all the background work that has to go. You know, the Three Waters project alone is absolutely massive. And that, yes,
I think it's important to note that, you know, when I did the original survey going back 10 years and looking at the pressure on Waimate District Council to resource itself, when we compared ourselves to other councils, we were found to be probably ahead of other councils. So I try and keep the employee base as lean as possible, but I'm going to be really cognizant of work pressure on the staff, because, you know, there's great competition out there. The other point I want to make is when we talk about Three Waters, it doesn't just impact Dan. It comes through Dan's front door, but it hits finance, it hits policy, it hits regulation, it hits the whole team, because we've got to rewrite the background policy. We've got to rewrite the finances to represent things differently, and you'll be just amazed at how often external parties, particularly government, has an RFI, a request for information, and they'll want it in a specific way. We've got to drop what we're doing and do that body of work and get that information to them.
I note too that there's a lot of fixed term in there, to double what we had, so.
Because that's really the only place there's growth, because everything else is pretty stagnant.
Yeah, that's-
Fixed term to deal with what.
So around 86 employees or that would be if we just got left alone and there was no reform, we could probably just manage our own affairs. But that's not where we are. The other thing I'll mention is those fixed term ones. If you remember, when we went through the Three Waters Better Off funding, to get over the Three Waters peak workload, we put a couple of positions on fixed term for 2 years. And what's happened now is this continual change of legislation has sort of converted some of those positions to almost permanent, but we're still looking at opportunities where we can extend the fixed term arrangements and look at where we can draw from reserves as opposed to rating for these things. Is the peak workload going to drop off? I don't know. I'm not Gandalf, but I don't ask for any more resources than we absolutely need.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Sorry, through you want to go first? I just wanted to make a comment, sorry, through you. That in terms of, with the roles, we do what we can to rejig them. Like, for example, the HR advisor role, we're actually not going to fill that. Someone hopefully internally will take on some of the payroll aspect of that. And if that happens, that will reduce that number down. So we're always looking at ways that we can be more efficient if we can. Not about having an HR advisor if we don't need one.
Yeah, no, thank you, I appreciate that.
Paul?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, two things, Grace. Firstly, I always assumed that the fixed term lift was pool staff.
It is normally, yes, that's correct.
And it is here too?
I think we've got 8 pool staff, 10 pool staff.
Yes.
Right, so that reflects 8 of the 12.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so, and also the 9 vacancies, when they're filled, they'll go into the permanent full-time column?
Not always.
Not always?
Yeah, no, not all of them. I get the information to you. I think of that, I think 5 are permanent.
Yep. It just shows a trajectory, doesn't it?
Yeah. But they're vacancies, these are not new positions.
Yes.
Yeah, there is existing positions.
Yeah, we just haven't filled yet because we haven't needed to, or, for example, we've got one in Three Waters that's been there since last year and we've just been able to get by.
But they're distinct from the permanent full-time at the moment.
So for example, the recent recruitment that we're going out for, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong here, or Grace, so the new, what we're calling assistant engineer, was the old project manager position. So this, once again, is not a new position. It was held by Elliot when he was here, and that position's been vacant for 2 years. 2 years. But now with the pressure of having to meet new compliance standards and with local water done well, we need that position urgently filled because you've got Dan, our qualified engineers and Dave under too much pressure to manage the workload.
John?
Thank the staff because of the amount of work they're doing and with all these demands from central government and trying to do business as usual. And things as I just think, it'll be good to make clear to the ratepayers that most of this costing is not supported by central government, but it is additional to our rates. And to accomplish what government wants us to do, then there's a need to increase the staff levels, which comes down to our rates and to ratepayers. So I can't think that the staff and council are the meat and the sandwich,
Yeah, and that's the thing, John, is there is screed, as we've seen, screeds and screeds of central government reform coming and underway, and that's the thing. Listen, the bottom line is I'd stack our numbers up against any council in the country, and that I think we run a very lean machine, and at times too lean because we start breaking staff. if they can't get leave and they can't get time off and they're expected to do work 60 hours a week when they're only getting paid for 40, something needs to shift. And as I said, I would stack our staff anytime against any council in the country. I look quite on at some of the comments lately that I know, I think it's Ashburton have cut $30 million out of their next budget, LTP, for their upcoming LTP and that sort of thing. And I think I'd love to be able to cut money out if of any amount if we had it. But as we know, when we go through the financials, you're going through line by line. We're talking, hundreds of dollars and making sure that it's spent well. So, as I said, bring it on. If you want to have a discussion about staffing, I'm happy to back our staff against any in the country.
Yeah, great.
I know. Any other questions for Grace?
Thank you, Grace.
Yeah, thanks, Grace. If there's not, there's a recommendation that the report is received. I'm happy to move that report. Seconded, Councillor Begg, thank you. Motion, all in favour, say aye. Against. Carries. Moving on to general reports on page 26, finance report for the 6 months. Good morning, Tina.
Morning. Okay, so item 16.1, finance report 6 months ending December. You'll see the results there in point 2. We're still tracking about 1.5 million favourable to budget, so it's very similar to the position that we had at the end of October. Just wanted to clarify the budget carry forward process. So budget carry forwards that were approved by council yet to be incorporated into the operational budgets, but have been incorporated into the capital budget. So apologies if that's caused any confusion. We have the operational ones have been applied in January, so they'll feature in the next finance report. The only other thing I would comment on would be page 31, where we have our CapEx, or capital expenditure, results for the year to date. It's something that I just note that we'd like to provide a forecast in the future for that anticipated year-end position. It's just we're not quite in a place at the moment just with our workload and resourcing to do so. I know there's a lot coming, however.
Yeah. We always seem to get to this point about this time of the year that we go, oh, we're not where we should be, but there's a lot coming.
Yes, I think you've all been aware of the conscious decisions to hold some expenditure until the best solutions were identified.
Yeah, so. And that's been a position for a long time, and that's what we went out to our ratepayers with, particularly around rural drinking water, is that we would not spend it until we knew what we needed to spend it on. And I guess the good news is we are now getting to that point.
We've started this week.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Sure, Tina.
Yeah, Paul.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. On top of page 27, clause 9. The first point, I just basically don't understand it, around the insurance below budget.
Insurance
Yet to be analysed and processed.
So that's just an internal thing that at the moment the insurance payments are sort of excluded from the results because we have to go through and analyse and disperse that payment across all the relevant activities. So that's something that is on our list of things to do, and we haven't got that yet. So it's just acknowledging that when that's processed,
You just got to code it somewhere.
Yes. So as an example, vehicles is an easy example. Depending on where the vehicle aligns, that cost gets allocated to that activity. So if it's a water technician's vehicle, it'll get allocated to.
So it's all paid up, it's just not allocated.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions for Tina?
Can you just explain on page 27, resource management regulatory expenses above budget? Can you just explain that to me? I know we gave the money to the trail, but I don't get the resource management part of it.
So that's just the category that the subdivision contribution fund allocation to the Waimate Trail comes from. So because the contributions are received into the resource management activity, that's kind of the description of where it.
So it's basically
of what
that
expense
money we gave.
the category name of the expense. But in that one there in particular was they were released early, from what I understand.
Yeah.
The council agreed to release those funds early, so they didn't quite align with the budget.
Right,
And
so they
yes.
just took,
It's just timing.
but yeah,
Yes. Yes.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Tina? Probably just a comment from me. This is full of good stuff. And that it shows to me when we've got building consents above, accredited fees above, camp fees above, it just shows to me there's a lot of activity going on in the district at the moment, and that showed through the other day too. As I think Waimate had the highest in the country, 11% increase in property values in the since the last 12 months. I think it was one of the highest around, and that so the district's going really well, and that so obviously when we're above budget and the likes of building consents and limbs and stuff like that, unfortunately the only downside to that I guess is that it adds to the workload. What we were talking about before, because someone's got to do all the work around those limbs and bits and pieces like that. But no, I'm very pleased with the way things are tracking.
Could I make a comment? Can I just ask another question, please?
Certainly.
On 32, was under the urban reserves play, are we getting to that, or am I just jumping?
Yeah, no, it's all part of the report.
Yeah,
Yep.
cool. The urban reserves and playground safety meeting, well, you've got 250,000 for that. Is that just for one playground, or is that for all of the playgrounds in the district that we have?
Multiple.
Multiple.
Yep.
And is that something we have to do?
Yes. the
The
reason that we install the matting is without the matting to comply, you need to have a chip. And that chip is a particular type of chip, and you have to replace it really regularly. And it's quite expensive. So whole of life, the matting is a better option and provides better protection than having the chip.
The chip. And that is something that we need to do to be compliant. Is that right?
Yeah, and you'll be aware that our playgrounds are audited, assessed, whatever you like, every a couple of years, Dan?
2 years.
Every 2 years, and we have to meet a safety standard.
Right.
And
So
that sort
by
of
doing this, we will be compliant into the future, as if we're doing the chip, we would need to be.
Well, I think the big thing is the chip long run is just a lot more expensive, because as Dan says, it's not just, you can't just put bark shavings down. It has to be a certain type and that sort of thing. It has to, and the other thing too is that hygienically, with dogs and cats and things like that, I would imagine the chip wouldn't be the best option. And I look at what they've just completed down at Bolton Park. It looks spectacular, and it really lifts the whole park and the playground. And because it can look pretty scary, some of those chips. But to me, if it's a good decision, if in the long term, if it's cheaper,
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just,
It's incredibly cheaper than
Yeah.
because I know how much my little playground costs. It's quite
Yeah.
expensive.
no, that's right. I just wasn't sure if that was just for the one we've just done, the 250, just for that there, or whether it was for the whole lot. So yeah, thank you.
just a quick question, probably for Dan again. The reservoir cover, is that due shortly?
That is, yes.
It's been done.
We've got a supplier.
Right.
We're waiting to click go on that.
Oh, cool. I know, I just drove past the other day, sneaking home, coming back from an outing, and it looks just about at the end of life, and that sort of thing. Oh, cool, okay. And the only other question I had was around the car park at the lakes. What do we have? I think it was about $12,000 to reshape the car park at the Waitangi.
Might be in the next report in this evening.
Am I jumping ahead somewhere?
That's in this one.
It's in here
This
somewhere.
one as well.
Yeah, I saw it somewhere too.
That's right. Well, it's just,
Yeah, I thought I had marked it. New facilities. I know it was,
Oh, yeah, it's on page
yeah,
32.
yeah, on page 32.
Yeah.
Waitaki Lakes Camping Car Park Development. And I was just wondering, I haven't, maybe you could tell us about it, Stuart, as you were up there. I haven't been up over to the car park for a while. Have we redeveloped the car park or?
What we've done is where the boat parking is.
Yeah.
That has been modified, it's smoothed out, and is there and in use now.
Oh, okay. Thanks for that. Any other questions for Tina at all, or the team?
Just on the district signage that you've got on page 32, what have we still got to do with that? Do you know, there's some money we've spent some money, is that the signs that we've already had?
Yeah, so we've still got a number of signs on the go.
Right.
Yeah, so in the parks,
Oh, yeah, okay.
up at the lakes. Yeah.
Some more interpretive signs, aren't they? Still in.
Some are.
Directional.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very interesting if you're watching the commenting on the Waitaki signs.
Oh, yeah.
Signage. I see that we got a little mention in that.
Oh, did we?
If Waimate can do it, why can't
Oh, it's good, was it? Oh,
Yeah.
good.
What's good, yeah. Probably the final one for me is item 13 on page 35. Council has awarded the contract to construct the 4 kilometres of pipeline. That's underway. A couple of the team were down there the other day having a look at the hole. And that, great news. Can't wait. Get that connected up, and yeah, we can have a bit of an opening once we get that project completed. Looking forward to it. Alright, so recommendation on page 35, the finance report for 6 months ending December 31st is accepted. Yeah. And a mover. Move Councillor Begg, second Councillor Stevens, put the motion all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Moving on to expended variation report on page 36.
Okay, so this report is again for the same period. There's some additional items of expenditure that have been identified in quarter 1, which we've got an asterisk beside. So essentially we've already received the balance of those items at the November meeting. And just a reminder, since it's only the second time for this council receiving this report, that the funding of these expenditure variation items are from the activity reserve unless we specify otherwise. We break it down, the report down into sections. There's some sections at the end where there's some central government funding that's funded certain items of expenditure. Less of those now. And we also differentiate between those items that council approves. Are there any questions?
Cool. Any questions for Tina or Alicia?
The only thing that did note, 9 grand to I guess I'm not in touch with surveying costs.
That's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Surveying is, dear.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah. Welcome to the modern world.
Yeah. I need to get out more.
Yeah. Yeah. Go and get some of your farm surveyed off. Then you'll find out. Any other questions for Tina or Alicia at all?
Just one there, we had the under 19 and just it's formalising the boat trailer parking area, including reshaping. Is that for long-term storage or is that just for people when they're parking their boats up?
For daily use.
Daily use.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So there's no dollar benefit for us, like as in revenue gathering at the end of the day.
No.
Okay.
It would be for a better.
Well, yes, for
facilities,
people,
you get more people,
yeah.
more
I was just
like
thinking if it
users,
was a boat parking that we were charging people to keep their boats there for
no,
a
it's just-
time.
It's just parking by the.
Yeah.
It's just an upgrade to what was there.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Because it was a bit rough and ready.
I haven't been up there for a while either, so
Yeah. Oh well, may have the district tour, might go and have a
Yeah.
look.
I just have to go on a holiday.
Righto, any more questions? If there's not, got a recommendation on page 38, the expended variation report is accepted. Mover. Move Councillor Stevens, second Councillor Patterson, put the motion all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you, Alicia. Swap seats back again now. Moving on, page 39 to the quarterly Treasury dashboard report. I'll hand over to Tina. Thanks, Tina.
Yeah, so again, reports for the same period, aligning things nicely, the December quarter. Right, current debt still stands at 5 mil, which it has been at for quite some time. Based on our December forecast, and our anticipated capital works, we were actually forecasting further debt of around 12.5 mil to be drawn on by the end of June. We have the philosophy that we don't draw it until we need it.
Yep.
Our cash flow can become tight depending on the cycle of income collection. We'll continue to delay that as long as we can. There continues to be a minor breach with council's policy over that mix of the fixed interest rate cover. And as has been discussed previously, that's something that will be effectively corrected when we draw down further debt. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Tina. Questions for Tina?
I have one, but it actually refers to something we've already voted on. It's just a clarification.
Yeah, what is it for?
So I want to go back to, if I could, back to the, where are we? The variations, number 5, building control legal fees. This is something that could be recoverable?
That portion I don't think is recoverable. It was substantially managed through insurance.
That was like our excess.
But it was also a matter that went before the courts, so
Yeah.
a little bit out of our control. I think that's fair to say, Dylan?
Yes, and it's not quite finished yet, but
It's not.
no, there'll be a wee bit more
Yeah.
in the washer.
So
It's
we
almost
need to be a bit sort of careful what we say about on that matter.
Okay, thank you.
So moving back to the quarterly treasury report. Recommendation on page 40, the report is received. Let's move it. Move Councillor Stevens, Councillor seconded, Councillor McAwee, put the motion on, favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thanks, Tina.
Thank you.
Item 16.4 on page 48.
Morning, Alex.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Time to talk about national environment standards for minor residential units, detached minor residential units to be exact, or otherwise known as granny flats, and how that affects that district plan.
Just comment, I read the plan and well, to be fair, I didn't read it all, you know.
Like I say, it's just as well we have Alex here to answer any questions.
Yeah.
So the report is read.
Oh my God. 6.10. Just from my understanding, we find it.
Yeah, no, it's all right. The attachments possibly had the desired effect, but they had to go.
I'll tell you what was quite hard is that you've got NES DRMU in quite a lot, and then you've got NES DRMU. And so
yeah, I will have to double check.
But I think on all the technical stuff, like the official stuff, you've got it right.
Yeah,
it's
no,
only in our
sorry,
document here, so.
I wrote the paper last after having done all the plan.
I was like trying to work it out, but anyway, I got there.
Yeah.
A great thing that is like local government and acronyms.
Yeah.
Acronyms.
She went up back to front.
Yeah, no, my apologies there, because
No, that's
definitely
okay.
got muddled in my head.
No, I knew it would, but it's all written correctly in the bits we need to vote on, so that's fine.
Sorry, it's in the residential zones. I'm just trying to find where it is in the middle of the thing.
Find what you needed, Rick?
It was 6.10 in the residential zones. There was a question about
Scrolling down to it.
unsanitary buildings, and I was wondering if that runs in the foul of our bylaws. I wasn't sure if that meant that it didn't apply anymore or it did.
6.10 you said?
Yes.
I did actually almost anticipate a question on this. Honestly, that standard is challenging anyway. So there's no direct relationship between the RMA standard and the bylaw standard and various building standards like safe and tenantry. They can all say slightly different things, but that standard is relatively broadly worded. So in the event something like that comes up, we'd have to look really carefully at which tools were appropriate to use. The problem here is the detached minor residential units. This rule is worded in other bits of the plan to explicitly relate to the amenity of residential zones. And then the NES says, for the avoidance of doubt, no rules which look after amenity are allowed to continue to apply. So that's why I've had to put the note there. Does that sort of help?
So I mean,
A really complicated answer.
so if there is an unsanitary building,
So unsanitary is building.
but it's a dwelling, someone has like a dilapidated house or something.
Yeah,
And
and
there's still nothing.
so if it was a DMRU, under this, we couldn't use the RMA. We'd still have our bylaw or building application thing, our bylaw or building tools if we, if they were appropriate to use for the situation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Confused?
Sorry, I have not answered that well.
I may have missed it, but is there going to be a restriction on the number of the
Emma's calling them dimrus.
There we go. Yeah, I was just wondering whether or not that would vary too between zone to zone.
So the NES itself says there is a limit of one per site, and so anything more than that, you're not a dimru anymore, and you go back to just being a regular thing, and you have the limits in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if there's two, one would be under a dimru and one would be effectively the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, potentially. And so like on one of our processing checklists, the very first thing is check if it's a principal residential unit or a dimru or something else, because that can be in several different categories. Like it could also be a family flat under our rules as well. Yeah, it just gets really complicated.
Okay, question. So let's say my house is on 3 titles, so that means I gotta have 3 dimrus along with my house that sits in the middle of the title?
The first dwelling on any title is a principal residential and not a dimru.
But then, because I'm on 3 titles, can I have 3 dimrus?
If you have one house on one title, you get one dimru for that title.
But if you've got a vacant, but the second title doesn't have a house on it, you can't have a dimru.
It's a principal.
I was trying to think about how.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so you can't build a whole heap of flats that you can rent out
A whole lot
on
of
your property.
Yeah. And there are issues like if you build a principal residential unit second, you build the dimru first and then you build a larger dwelling, does the dimru automatically become a dimru then or not? All sorts of sequencing issues the National Planning Inbox has kind of.
It's so good to see the government's made this much clearer.
Is that a question?
It was more a question for the councils that had implemented medium density residential standards, because medium density residential standards say you can have 3 dwellings per site, and then the NES says you can have 1 detached minor residential unit per site. So it depends on what order you do stuff sometimes.
And how long can a dimru be a dimru before the principal has to be built?
Well, you have to have a principal first to be a dimru.
Oh, that's right, yeah, then it converts, that's right.
But how can you technically have a dimru as a principal residence if you're building that first?
Yeah.
Yes, but then if you build your principal residence after that, why are you changing that to a dimru? Then it's already been a principal residence.
Yes,
I mean, that's just playing with the rules, isn't it?
And that is what there is quite a substantial email chain about. Thankfully, there's no particular issue with that for our rules as a whole. But yes, there is a little bit of potential, what happens when that happens. Hopefully it happens somewhere else and we get some nice case law on it.
Doesn't matter.
We'll get to revisit this when we do our regional spatial plan.
Yes.
Joy.
Interesting.
I can hardly wait.
Righto, so any other questions? Alex or Dylan? I think,
That was
I
relevant.
think it's pretty straightforward, we've got to change the rules, it's simple as that. And that, we don't have an option, it's a national environmental standard, so we have to abide by it. So on that, I'm happy to move 1, 2 and 3. Do I have a second? A second to councillor McAwee, put the motion on in favour, say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thanks for that enlightening
Thank you so much.
It's always entertaining.
understanding of the regulations. All I can say is I'm so pleased this government is sort of making things simpler.
Thank God I never became a planner.
It's a single.
Alright, so there's no. Alright, we'll keep going.
Yes, please, Alex. We're going into public excluded.
There's no major or minor items that I'm aware of, so we're moving into public excluded. We have somebody